Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending where in the world you're sitting. And welcome to this presentation of our new ULTRAFLOW 85. We only have an hour, so I will deep into it right away. This is the introduction to our new ULTRAFLOW 85. This is going to replace our current ULTRAFLOW 54, the big flow sensor, so it's from DN 150 to DN 300. Just a small overview of our big flow sensor program and the history behind it. We started our big flow sensor program back in 1998 with ULTRAFLOW 2. This only lasted 2 years before it had a big update to the ULTRAFLOW 65, which lasted 11 years. And now we have our current one, ULTRAFLOW 54, which has been on the market for around 14 years. So it's also already, I would say, quite an old flow sensor. That is also one of the reasons why we are replacing it. So we can make sure that we can deliver big flow sensors in the future as well. This is one reason for the changeover to ULTRAFLOW 85. The biggest reason is when we look at how we are producing both heat, but also how we produce cooling and how we store heat and cooling. We see a lot of new players coming in, fourth generation, as we call it, both in district heating and cooling. And as you can see here, this is just an overview of where we came from. We came from coal and oil when we're talking about heating. Now we are seeing a lot more of geothermal heat pumps, surplus heat from data centers and industrial, and so on. And this is where our current ULTRAFLOW 54 did not completely match all the requirements. Now with our ULTRAFLOW 85, we hope we can fulfill a lot of more requirements from the market regarding all of these new ways of producing and making heat and cooling. Have a look at the connection and the sizes. This is an overview of our current ULTRAFLOW 54. As you can see here, these sizes here in DN150, DN200, and DN250, all of these sizes is PN25 today. And then we have our big DN300, which is PN16. With our new ULTRAFLOW 85, we are going to phase out some variants and we're going to come up with some new variants, which I'm going to show you now. This is the new program. So now we are going to have both PN25 and PN16 sizes or connections. As you can see here, these three types marked with red will be phased out. But we are going to phase in two new variants. This QP250, DN200, which is also a requirement in the EN 1334. And then we are going to come with a new QP600, DN300. So we are going to have the program for ULTRAFLOW 85 looking like this, where one flow sensor size is actually covering two QP sizes. And you can have these two in PN25 or PN16, and the same goes for the DN200 and the DN250. The DN300, here we'll still only deliver them as PN16 connection. We have already prepared some information to help this transition from our current ULTRAFLOW 54 to the 85. We have made a comparison sheet showing if you had the old one, what is the new type number for the ULTRAFLOW 85, and also an overview of the new PN16 variants. We have also made a small two-pager for the customers who have previously used one of our free variants we are going to phase out, how to help these customers in the future if they're going to replace these units, what is Kamstrup's recommendations. Here we have a small two-pager made with just an explanation of what is our recommendation for these replacements. Now deeping dive into the more fun part, which is some of the new features we are coming with in the ULTRAFLOW 85. Normally, we are used to having a pulse connection between flow sensor and calculator. Now we are coming up with something new we call serial communication. I will come back to what that actually means. But first, I will just show you how it works today. Normal pulse operation as we know it. Here we have someone wrote, do you show slides? Hopefully you can all see my slides. Janos, can you verify?
Yes, I can see your slides. I don't know, Viteke. Can everyone confirm that you can see Jesper's slides?
Yes, we see.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Then continue.
Thank you. So this is how it works today, where we have the flow sensor measuring the flow every second. And when a sufficient amount of volume has gone through the flow sensor, it sends the pulse signal to the calculator. And the calculator uses the volume to measure the energy, of course, also measure the temperature. This is how it works today. And this is, of course, very fine when talking about high flows. Then you have the volume going every second over to the calculator. Now with serial communication, we actually move, I'll say, the engine over to the calculator. So the calculator will be the master and the flow sensor will be the slave, meaning it's actually the calculator who decides when the flow sensor should make a flow measurement. Meaning the calculator will ask the flow sensor, please perform a flow measurement and return it back to me. And it will do this every 0.5 seconds, sending a signal to the calculator, or to the flow sensors, telling the flow sensor to make a measurement and return it back to the calculator. And after 4 of these, it will calculate the energy in the calculator. So this is what serial communication does. And here we are, instead of having pulses, which is very volume rated, here it's time based. So it's the time between every of these that matter. Why is this important? Well, if you want to use the flow or the volume for some kind of regulation, it could be pumps or valves you want to regulate accordingly to the actual flow, then you cannot wait for a pulse signal if the flow is low. Here, because it's time-based, you don't have to wait anymore. You will have the actual flow almost immediately. As said here, it is the calculator that is the master, and it is the flow sensor that is the slave. That also means you have to have the correct type of calculator. And this is where it gets a little tricky. Because if some of you know our calculator program, this is our Multical 603. today we have different PCB types from A to M. Unfortunately, we could not update these the firmware in these PCBs, so we had to make 2 new versions, and these are the 2 new versions that will be able to handle this new serial communication. So if the question is, of course, what will happen if you connect one of the current PCBs to an ULTRAFLOW 85? Well, if you connect one of our current PCBs from A to H to an ULTRAFLOW 85, and then they will run pulses as we know it today. So it will be a pulse signal, just as we know it. And here we have the battery lifetime, quite high, still 13 years in adaptive mode. And of course, if you connect ULTRAFLOW 85 with one of our older calculator types, so the 601 or 602, it will still work as we know today with pulse signal. If you connect ULTRAFLOW 85 with one of the new PCB types, so the S or the U, then you will have the serial communication. So here you will have the fast update speed. And then you will also get a little bit higher of battery lifetime. If you connect the new PCB S or U to one of our smaller ULTRAFLOW, so ULTRAFLOW 50 from DN15 to 125, then it will work as pulses again as we know today, and you will still have the battery lifetime as we have today with the 16 years. Just to very shortly show you that the S version, so the new Multical 603 S version, is based on the E version, so it's a PT500 2-wire with T1, T2, T3, and V1 and V2. The Multical 603U version is based on the H type, so it's a PT500 4-wire with T1, T2, and V1 and V2. With Multical 803, here we had the possibility to update the firmware. So when we start delivery of ULTRAFLOW 85, all Multical 803 will have the new firmware update, so it will do the serial communication. But if you have one of our older Multical 803 versions and connect it to ULTRAFLOW 85, then don't worry, it will just work as we know today with pulses. Then we come into a big new thing also, which is possible because of the serial communication, and that's very important to say. Bidirectional measurement, meaning now with ULTRAFLOW 85, we have the possibility to measure the flow, both going forward, but also reverse flow. But this requires serial communication. So here you will have to have the right PCB version of the Multical 603, so the S or the U version, or the updated Multical 803 firmware. But then we will have to do the possibility to do bidirectional measurement and also measuring the flow, but also the possibility to measure the energy consumption in both directions. And what is very important to mention, it is also MID approved in both directions. So not only in one, but in both directions is MID approved. Now I'll just deep dive into the design because there are some very big differences from the current one to this ULTRAFLOW 85. This is the design split drawing of the ULTRAFLOW 85. As I said before, we will now have both PN25 connection, but we will also have PN16 connection to choose from. If some of you remember our cone ULTRAFLOW 54, today it is completely round, meaning it can actually roll if you place it on the ground. ULTRAFLOW 85, here we have made some of the flanges, as you can see, flat, meaning it will have this rolling protection, meaning it doesn't roll anymore if the floor is tilting a little bit. The all-meter housing have a conical inlet instead of a straight pipe. They have a conical inlet, which is very good for flow disturbances. All meters are approved according 250 to 1, but comes to we will deliver them 100 to 1. If some of you remember the current one, here we have this flexible tube, which we saw many times being broken during the installation. Now this flexible tube, instead, this has been now this is a robust stainless steel tube, so it cannot break anymore. We have added more lifting hooks, so it's easier to lift in all positions. I'll get back to you why we have added more. We have added a display as well. I will come into just in a brief moment what is actually shown on the display and what can it be used for. We have this extension tube. In our current program, you have to buy an extension tube and put it on. Now it is an integrated part of the flow sensor body, meaning this extension tube will be delivered as standard on all flow sensor sizes of ULTRAFLOW 85. We have room for a type label, we have a transparent lid, and we have a top cover. The complete design and everything is actually now IP68, and that also includes the display and everything. So the highest IP class we can get. Now, what can be shown on the display? The first thing, now it's possible to have a backlight on the display on the flow sensor. So the display on the flow sensor can either be on or off, meaning when you order the ULTRAFLOW 85, you have to tell if you want the backlight on or off. We do not recommend having the backlight on if the calculator is battery supplied. It's important for me to say there is no battery inside the display of the flow sensor. The power comes directly from the calculator. So this is a backlight. It can either be on or off. Then you can see the actual flow in cubic meters per hour, either going forward flow. If it's reverse flow, then you will have a minus showing you that it is reverse flow, and it will be the actual flow in cubic meters per hour. The display can also show if it talks serial communication with the calculator. So here, as I said before, we have these two new PCB types of the Multical 603, the S or the U version, and the 803 updated firmware version. The display will actually tell you if it's serial, then you'll write this in the display telling you that the ULTRAFLOW 85 is working in serial connection with the calculator. If it has worked with a different calculator, one of the other PCB types or one of our pulse divider or third-party calculator, then in the display of the flow sensor, it will write this simple saying, I am working in pulse mode together with the calculator. It's very important to say when working in pulse mode, it is only forward flow. Reverse flow is not supported. Then there is this new small symbol telling you if the flow is 25% above QP, then this small symbol will light up. It's very important for me to say it's not an error, it's an info. Because when you are running the flow sensor above QP, it is very important that you have sufficient amount of static pressure, so you don't have any cavitation inside the meter. So it's an info for the installer or for the people running the units or the flow sensor that if you're above QP, you have to make sure you have sufficient amount of pressure. Then we have an error. It's an error for air. It will light up if there's air inside the flow sensor, and it will light up immediately. Today there is from the data is a small delay from the flow sensor to the calculator. With the ULTRAFLOW 85, the display will show immediately if there's air in the flow sensor. This is very useful when after installing the ULTRAFLOW 85, you can run different similarities of flow to see which one will create air in my system and which one doesn't. So again, it's an what we'll say a very unique thing for the installer to help them set up the system so they know what to run and what not to run to avoid air in the system. And again, it comes on immediately and it goes off immediately. So when the air is gone, it goes off again. Then we have a small heartbeat indicator. It will just toggle between on and off, on and off. And this is just to show you that the flow sensor is alive and it does some measurements. Now we come into the installation, because here are also some new things I'd like to show you. Well, our recommendation is of course to insulate the flow sensor. This helps the performance of the flow sensor, but of course it's also better because then you don't lose any energy around the flow sensor. And what is new is the direction of the flow sensor. So it doesn't matter when we are talking about heating what direction the flow sensor is installed in. So you can have the display pointing down, upwards, to the sides, or in any angle. All these angles is now allowed, and this is quite new. And that is also why we have added more lifting hooks. Because we have lifting hook in the top and the bottom, and also lifting hooks on the side. Because now you can install it in all angles when we are talking about heating. This is just a drawing from our installation guide showing you what to lift in and what not to lift in. Of course, we have the lifting hooks in the bottom and the top, and the two on the side. We have the display here in the extension tube, but please do not lift it in this extension tube. It is very robust, it is made of composite, but do not lift it in this because it can break. When talking about cooling, again, we recommend insulating the flow sensor. Here, we recommend that you only install the flow sensor in the upper half circle. And this is, of course, to avoid condensation dripping down all the time into the display. Of course, the display and the whole flow sensor set is IP68, but still we do not recommend installing it in the lower half circle, and this is just to avoid the cavitation, the condensation. In our installation guide, we also have some recommendation of installation. There is a small hole on the extension tube that we recommend that you should not cover because it is a small ventilation hole. So if you just keep below these maximal thickness of insulation, then no problem. And again, this is written in the installation guide that we deliver together with the flow sensor. Now we have added this display. And of course, if it can be installed in all angles, but you don't want to turn your head when you want to read the display. So now you can actually just loosen a small screw, and then you can rotate the display 207 degrees around. And then, of course, you have to screw the small screw in again. Accessories. We have a small bracket. So if you want to install the calculator together with the flow sensor after the commissioning of the flow sensor, then you have the possibility to click on this bracket. It can very easily be clicked on, and it can also very easily be clicked off. And it can be used both for multicell 603 and 803, and also our pulse transmitter or divider. I have some real pictures of it later. The cable from the calculator to the flow sensor is the same cable as we use today. It's the 3-wire cable with the colors. As a standard, it's 2.5. We have a 5 meter. We also have a 10 meter. And all of these can be mounted from factory if ordered together with a calculator. We have our cable extender box. Here it makes it possible to have 30 meters between ULTRAFLOW 85 and the multical, so the calculator. The cable extender box have also had a small revision change, so now it's IP68 as well, same as the flow sensor. The cable extender box supports the bidirectional and also all the info codes. Then we have the pulse transmitter divider. This is if you want to have longer cables than 30 meters. With a pulse transmitter, you can have up to 100 meters between flow sensor and calculator. Also, the divider is if you want to have it connected to, for example, a third-party calculator. But just one note to this, that if you use the pulse transmitter or divider, then you don't have the possibility of the serial communication, and you do not have the possibility of bidirectional, because it does not support info codes and it does not support this reverse flow. Here we have some photograph how it looks today. This is a DN150. Here you can see the lifting hooks. We have both on top and bottom and on the sides. We have the new display. Here we have it from the sides. We have, as you can see here, the connection of the transducers. And you have this metal tube instead of this flexible ones we have today. We have now a metal tube. And we have this extension coming out here. And all of this is standard. This is always delivered as you see here on the picture. And then I mentioned this bracket you can put on top of the display. Of course, you cannot read the display then, but maybe it's not necessary after you have done the commissioning of the installation. And then you can put on your calculator 603 or 803 directly on the flow sensor. So to sum up, I have talked fast, I can see. But that's good, then we have plenty of time for questions. ULTRAFLOW 85, so that's DN150 to 300. Some of the highlights: it's MID approved, both in forward direction and in reverse direction. We have now added this permanent separation from the electronics casing here. So this is standard. It's a fast response, so it measures down to 0.5 seconds now. We have PN25 or PN16 connections. It have MID approval and also the Danish cooling approval. It is tested according to the newest EN 1334 standard from 2022. And it's also OEML compliant. It is 250 to 1 approved, but we will deliver 100 to 1. And it's IP68 now, the complete flow sensor. This was a very fast brief into ULTRAFLOW 85.